The total number of passengers on cruise ships increased 14% from 2010 to 2013. If there were 20.98 million passengers in 2013, how many were there in 2010? So what this problem is saying is that we had a certain number of passengers in 2010. We don't know how many. There was an increase of 14% according to the problem. So the number went up. And now in 2013, we have 20.98 million. So like most of our percent of change problems, we're going to solve this by creating a proportion. This is going to be a little different though, because usually our proportions we're trying to find a percent. And in this proportion problem, we know the percent. So usually our proportion is the change over the starting amount, and it equals the rate over 100. But this time we know the rate. The rate is 14. So we know 14 over 100 is going to be our second ratio. But what's the first ratio going to be? What was the percent, or what was the amount of change, and what was the original amount? Well, the original amount is the thing that we don't know. I have no idea what the original amount was. So that's going to be my variable. Let's call that A for amount. I do not know what the original amount was. I know that it went up by something, and I got 20.98 million. Well, how am I supposed to write that, what it went up by? What is this amount right here that it increased by? Well, a kind of cool way that I can write this is I know that the amount it went up by is 20.98 minus whatever I started with. If I take 20.98 and I subtract this starting amount, I should get the increase. So 20.98 minus the starting amount will give me the increase amount. Now that I have this proportion set up, I can do cross multiplication. So 20.98 minus A times 100. 20.98 minus A. I need parentheses. It's going to be times 100. I'm going to put the 100 in front because I know I'm going to need distributive property, and I just think it looks nicer when we do it that way. And then going the other direction is A times 14, which I'm going to write as 14A. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our distributive property here. So we're going to do 100 multiplied by 20.98, which is very simple. Multiplying a decimal by 100 is easy. We just move the decimal point over. And then we've got 100 times A, which is just 100A. Pretty easy. And it equals 14A. So this is what it looks like after doing the distributive property. Let's make sure we show our work by putting the property we used, distributive property. Okay, so we've got A's on both sides of this equation. So our next goal is going to be to get the A's on the same side of the equation. We could subtract 14A on both sides, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense. So let's go ahead and add 100A. That's going to cause the minus 100 plus 100 to cancel. So that will leave us with 2098 equals, and then 14A plus 100A is 114A. And we added 100A on both sides, so that means we used the addition property of equality. Great. Make sure we show our work here. There's only one thing left to do, and that is to divide both sides by 114 so that we isolate the A. We're probably going to want a calculator for this one. 2098 divided by 114 is not the easiest thing to do in the world, especially because the answer comes out to be a decimal. It's about 18.40 if we round it, so approximately 18.40. After doing the division property of equality, probably going to want to use a calculator for that one. I can't imagine too many people who could do that without a calculator. So 18.40 approximately. Now that is not good enough for an answer. We need to write our answer in context. So we're going to say there were approximately And we don't really need the zero on the end, but since our problem had two significant digits in it, we'll go ahead and be good mathematicians and leave two significant digits in our answer. Now remember, we're measuring in millions, so 18.40 million passengers in, and was the year 2010? I forgot. Yep, 2010. In 2010. And there is our answer in context.